Hi guys, welcome to Clockwork Noodles, the channel where we break down the seasonal anime, have a bit of fun, talk about colour. We have a series called What's in a Design. All the 5 episodes should be up by Tuesday next week as the final episode is going up. Something a little bit different I've decided to gift you for episode 5, so make sure you are subscribed to find out what that magical gift is. Also make sure you are subscribed as I've got 3 cool fun videos which are very different formats which I think you guys also might like. And of course at some point there will be a spring anime what am I going to be watching list going out at some point. There is also a Discord channel. If you follow the Discord channel, you will get notifications whenever a video goes up on my channel, so you will never be out of the loop of whatever I'm doing. I also do bounce ideas off you guys from time to time. I do tend to lurk a lot, so even if I am quiet, it tends to be because I'm working on things, but you can use it as a scheduler just to know when things have gone up. So let's get on with it. We're back. We're here with the Promised Neverland episode 4. This is season 2, and we're going to jump straight into it. So let's jump straight into finding out what the end of that phone call was all about, where we find out Minerva's real name was James Rattray. So the name doesn't ring a bell right this very moment in time. I have a feeling at some point it might click and there's going to be a bit more to it, just because the conversation seems to suggest what I was initially thinking, that he is dead. And I think he still could be dead just because of the way he talks during it. He does, however, confirm one of my big worries, that he is indeed affiliated with the farms. So he knows what's going on. He had to put people to death. Up until this point, we've seen mummers, female figures on the farms. Either he's working behind the scenes or there was farms where there are dads, I guess, perhaps. Something that could be considering at some point. However, eventually he does admit that the guilt got to him, having to sacrifice children over and over again. And this also confirms the story that Sonju told us, that 1,000 years ago there was this promise between the demons and the humans. Rattray basically tells us that he couldn't change this promise or break it. However, he wants to give the children who have come to realise what's going on a choice for their own futures. So at least open up and give people a chance or a choice to live in the future. I did say as well, I'm really not sure how they're going to change a promise that's been sat there for a very, very long time. So rescuing the kids from the farms is one thing, but changing the very nature, the very way the world works is something completely different, which I don't quite see how they're going to do. He tells us that the farms basically learned of his betrayal and that he was treated as a traitor and pursued. However, to note that the books and his clues were all still present at Graceland. So either they weren't aware of how big his betrayals went, or they were there for a reason, which makes me wonder. I'm still wondering if this man is dead, because the way he speaks, he starts to use past tense, like, I wanted to meet you, I wanted to hear you, I wish I could have. These are all past tense, so he's either at this point when he's recording, given up, he knows he's about to die. Back to the room with the red filter where we actually see the names scribbled on the walls. So I'm wondering, was Minerva hunted down by the demons for all of his bad deeds and being a traitor essentially, and then he got here, found this location and ended up making a scribble of the walls because he's haunted, essentially. Where we even see the book where there's names going like, you know, I've had enough, I can't take it anymore, if you find this, don't give up. Either he was alone and he was hunted down and he ended up committing suicide or killing himself, or he was found eventually, or there's still something that isn't quite lining up, because this place looks like a farm. And that still doesn't answer the question why this is the place that he left as a shelter. Was this his old shelter that he somehow got out of? There's some unanswered questions that aren't quite fully lining up yet. Hopefully we get those answers at some point. But the main part of him is starting to fall into place. We can kind of see that the person writing on the wall must have been him. Or it was his farm. I don't know. This anime is leaving lots of doors open right now. He tells them that they can live in the shelter forever, or they can go to the human world, where this doesn't line up with what Sonju said. So Sonju said that nobody had crossed over to the human world for 1,000 years. So is it possible? Now, they do get a new password to the pen, which is future, and a new coordinate, which is D100, and it's very, very far away, like really far away. This we can maybe presume is the human world, but he does also say that hopefully the people will accept you. So is there a chance that they're even going to get to D100 and not be accepted by these humans and turned away and shunned by their own people? Because we do see this episode where the humans are also not on their side. So initially the kids work out they are now on their own and they have to proceed how they see fit, where we decide that we need to build a foundation and then build up our build up a place, and then come rescue the others before crossing over to the human realm. So that is the faraway goal. The goal for the short term is to make a foundation where we get a really nice montage of survival, just everybody starting to try and survive, try and teach themselves how to train. We see the underground caves, which are really making me nervous. I was really nervous about these. I was like, somebody is going to come in through those, or there's going to be something more about these caves. Daily life starts to continue ticking by. We start to see Elder writing in her diary. We are training, we are growing food, learning how to live, prepare for the future, eventually allowing us to plan and rescue the other people. And it's just simple piano music. Everything feels really nice. Everything feels really hopeful. If anything, I was like, this is a little bit slow. And I was like, it feels a bit slow. I wonder if it's going to bump up at some point. So the first half of this episode was indeed very slow. We end up with us cutting quite quickly to a group meeting where everybody starts to decide that they want more frivolous items. I want pancakes, I want this, I want that. But again, you're in the wild, you're trying to survive, you can't do that. Until Toma and Lenny decide that they want to go hunting. And I was like, okay, right, we've stopped this beautiful montage to hit here. So we've obviously fast forwarded to something of interest. Is this going to end badly? The kids end up hunting in the forest, which wasn't very far from where Sonju and Graceland was, so they're actually scarily closer than I thought they were. Where we are introduced to the Gooey. I don't think they actually have a proper name. That's not actually their name, but they look, if you're fish related, if you know about your fish, they look like bottom feeding plex. These are slimy fish that kind of live on the dew on the trees. And the big question is, are they edible? This is where we get a little bit of tension start to build, where we draw some short straws and we're going to find out if these are poisonous. The only way we really can is try a bit, time it, see if you're okay. However, even though they're not sure that these things are edible, they have brought so many. There's like bagfuls of them, platefuls of them. I'm sure there's a lot of them, but if these are poisonous, you're going to have to toss all those fish out. Toma, Lenny and Ray are the ones who end up volunteering. And then this nice build up of silence. We have no music. We have the ticking of the clock going by. We're starting to build anticipation. Like at any moment, these guys could start choking. These guys could be sweating. These guys could be sick. Moments start to pass. There's no music. I love the way they start to build that tension. 30 minutes passes and it does seem up that they're okay. So everyone seems to be okay in the end. It turns out that these are actually quite yummy as well, which is good. But can you guys imagine what would have happened if these had been poisonous? It would have gone a very different way because they would have been too sick to move during the next sequence. We have a check-in with our farms where there's no shipments going on and there's no change going on, so nothing on that forefront there. But I think it's time we change things up a bit, and there's a character we haven't seen for a while who is now in jail. Yes, Isabella's here, and it's time to go back to Isabel, and I have missed her, but I am so worried now. Really, really worried. Isabel gets a visit from grandmother, who says that she is basically gonna pursue all of the kids, return them all or ship them out as planned. She ends on quite the eerie, you'll see them soon, and I hate that. I really hate that. I've got the chills going. It's just really ominous. So obviously I was like, oh, they must know where they are. Oh, they do. They totally know where these kids are, which also makes me worried because how do you know where the secret base is? Very, very interesting. Put shadow on Minerva because Minerva spoke to them. Obviously it was a recording. But then these guys knew exactly where to go. This anime is just so good. There's something going on and somebody knows where they are. And I don't know if Minerva's still good or bad. And I still think he's dead, but he could still be bad. Who knows? The question continues, will Isabel get a further punishment? So we now cut to a lot of different little shots of the CCTV footage. They keep going back to it. And I was just going, this is a bit weird that you keep cutting to these random screens. Is something going to happen? Is something going to approach? I really wish that they had actually been a bit more alert and looked at those things because what happened next was exactly that. This felt like foreshadowing to me. Something was going wrong. Everything was going too smooth and it had to end at some point. I just didn't expect it to go wrong this quickly. So Ray and Emma start to go, we need to start thinking about a rescue plan. But as soon as they start thinking about this, they are interrupted by a huge explosion. And up until this part, there's actually been no music as well. Also, the fact that when they look out at the night sky, it's a new moon. So there's no moon in the sky. This means that something is undercover. Something is being hidden. When you get a full moon, that's when the truth comes out. The moon literally shines light on the situation. Right here, when there's no moon, something is going on sneakily under the cover, and exactly that is what's going on. I love the fact that we've had no music to this point because everything just felt a little bit unsteady. Everything felt a little bit off. It was like, this is going too well. Something feels wrong. The front hatch is simply blown off. The lights go out, which again puts us back into that creepy, eerie situation. The soldiers are human. I wasn't expecting human soldiers. However, the more I started to think about this makes sense. Obviously, there are humans working with the demons. They need to keep a steady supply of kids, and kids obviously come from the mummers, but we need some men. These men are clearly the soldiers working for the regime. So there's definitely a higher up regime going on around this. It's just really interesting because one of the soldiers had orange hair, and immediately I thought Emma because her hair is orange as well. And I have noted a few times that a lot of the kids share the similar features because they must be obviously breeding from the same women. Obviously, I can't imagine they've got a big group of human men and women floating around, because obviously you're in a demon territory. They're just there to produce the stock. So the more I think about it, the darker it gets, but that is stuff that's going through my mind right now. The kids just deduct that it is not safe to stay. However, we are missing 2 children. Obviously, we had Don and Rossi who were keep an eye on the CCTV footage. Our pace starts to change. This is when things start to kick in. The anime has decided it's time to get going once more. We need to get back to having a danger start to grow. Back to Isabel and the demons, who present her with simply her options. She has the options of death, where we see the ominous white flower once more dangled in front of us. But she does initially first say, I'm not going to face them. They're simply going to escape because they are my children. And at that point, I was like, oh, she feels proud of that fact. But then the scene later kind of threw it on its head. The soldiers end up finding Rossi, where he kind of tricks them by going, I give up, don't harm me, kind of thing. And then obviously Don comes in and smacks him in the face with a can, which is clever. They create a diversion, and we end up having all our kids once more running off into those caves, the caves finally serving a purpose. However, guys, these soldiers are like super soldiers. The soldier literally breaks through the earth knowing where these guys are, and he falls all the way down, landing on his feet with his gun already in his hand, not taking any damage. Which, super soldier much? They trick him into telling them that there are basically 2 entries, as all shelters basically do have, and then they manage to get round him. So we're starting to see that the humans too are bad guys. You can't trust anybody. There is no allies. It's also the fact that they were like, well, you never had any freedom to begin with. That's not that. So these humans simply also see these kids as the sacrifice to this promise that they made 1,000 years ago. This is why I think the Promised Neverland always feels gloomy and interesting at the same time. Like, there's no allies right now. We have no allies. Even if they were to find Sonju again, Sonju is not really an ally. He's already announced that he would happily eat them when they're older, and he would obviously hunt them. So there's nobody on their sides. And right now, it just feels like the tides are completely against our characters. I have absolutely no idea how these kids are going to pull anything off. That's why I'm so fascinated by the story. They end up making a break for the forest, but then the cards kind of change once more, where they're all kind of captured. But nature in this place is damn scary, and the soldiers are attacked by this thing, and we've seen this thing before. But it is the irony that the armed soldiers end up getting eaten, but the kids with their bows literally are able to hit it in the eyes and have more luck. Then we cut back to the scary sequence, guys. This really scary sequence. Isabel is given a choice, and she ends up kind of being spared death in exchange for having to find the kids, returning everybody. I don't like it. Everybody is literally against them. The danger has now increased. Isabel is scary as. We also know that the current operation has just failed, so it's now Isabel's turn to have a go. Well, the payment for her returning these kids, well, she is going to be released from the Grace Field, have her number removed, her device from her heart removed, which makes me wonder, it's possible. The fact that you're able to promise this, either you're lying or this is possible, and there is actually a way to completely remove yourself from the system, which is interesting. That's a very bit of interesting information, or the fact that he's just lying to get her to do it. But I actually think he might be telling the truth. And he promises her something else that we do not hear, but it is something enough to make her so shocked that she definitely decides that she's going to take on the mission. So what did he promise her? Not quite sure what. Mummy is back indeed. The mummies are back. I'm terrified. This woman was scary in this first season. I am scared to see her back. The music starts to kick in. The danger is back on. The kids are back running for their lives from this monster. Is this also the opening sequence from episode 1? Because it looks identical. Did everything up until this point, was it all just prologue, just set up until this section? Oh my god, what an amazingly tense episode. It's been one hell of an episode, and I don't actually know. So some animation can go, oh, I think I know how they're going to overcome this. I have absolutely no idea how these guys are ever going to come in. There is monsters out to get them. Sonju is probably going to turn at some point, and if he sees them, he might happily try and hunt them. You've got Mama now on the case. I really just don't understand how the kids are, A, going to be able to rescue the kids, and then try and make a break for the human world. Or if they're going to try and be like Emma, and she's going to try and have a sense of justice or something, and she's going to try and overthrow the entire system, which I really hope she doesn't do, because I just don't understand how she's going to do any of that, let alone the simple stuff. This anime is really picking up. I did think it was feeling a little bit slow, but now we've got a lot thrown up against the wall. So how are we going to get out of the fact that there's a giant monster chasing us through the woods once more? I mean, you've been quite lucky so far that you've hit plot devices, like we've hit the friendly demons, and then we've kind of found the bunker. But now the bunker's gone. That safe place is gone. So we are out in the open, back into the wild once more, thrown into the cold, unknown forest. It's so interesting. The pacing's different. I also know that a few people are complaining because they've decided to go original, not following the manga. To be fair, I'm not a manga reader, so I have no idea if that's a good thing or a bad thing. You manga readers will have to be the ones to judge that in the end. Maybe they might make a different story, which is interesting. It's probably got to go through the author anyway. It's just one of those moments I think we need to see what happens. If they're able to create a amazing original story with Promised Neverland, the manga, as a base, I can't see the harm if it actually makes sense and it's interesting and it's still that same level of big brain energy. I'm good with it. I'm gonna happily see this to the end and see where we end up. And then obviously if I get interested in the anime, I then pick up the manga later on and see where the differences are. So I think that's my goal. I'm very happy to continue this one. So I hope you guys are enjoying this series, season 2. I hope you guys are taking care, looking after yourselves. Make sure you guys are subscribed, because eventually there will be some cool things coming out on this channel, aside my breakdowns anyway. But thank you guys so much for your continued support. Have a good one. Bye bye.